So, over the past maybe 6 months to about a year, I've read 2 books which are quite similar to each other, so I thought I'd do kind of like a battle. One blah 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 versus blah blah blah, and decide which one's better. And the topic of this one is Jane Austen fandom. I read 2 books relating to this. One of them my dad actually got for me from Amazon. It's completely ruined. Happens to my book sometimes. It's actually a really beautiful book. Mine is unfortunately quite ravaged. This is Among the Janeites by Deborah Yaff. A journey through the world of the Jane Austen fandom. It's got quite a beautiful cover. That cover, really gorgeous. I love the yellow and I love the contrast. You probably can't tell. It's a bright, bright yellow with this like old-fashioned print. I love it. This was published 2 years ago in 2013. It is 245 pages, and it was published by Mariner Press. You can see my copy is completely torn up. The other book I read, which is also related to the topic of the Jane Austen fandom, is not nearly as well worn, so you might be able to guess which one I prefer. This one's called A Jane Austen Education. I believe this one got a bit more press. I believe it had a review in the New York Times or something along those lines. How 6 Novels Taught Me About Love, Friendship, and the Things That Really Matter by William, I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce that name, Deresiewicz? I'm so sorry, I can't say it. Oh yeah, it was reviewed by the New York Times. I've got the blurb right there. Also great cover, almost like a paper doll, Regency man. His top coat's in the back. It's also a wonderful cover. Also, I'm a sucker for great spines. And this one are getting to get done. Fantastic spines. Because, you know, when they're on the bookshelf, people aren't, unless they're pulling them out, the thing that immediately attracts your attention is the spine. Because most of the time, they're stacked like this. You can't see the cover, so that's just kind of my own personal thing. Okay, quick overview. They're different. They're not covering this. These books are not the same. They're covering different portions of the fandom. This is more of a memoir. This is a personal journey through Jane Austen. There's, I believe, 1 chapter for each book. And yes. Emma, Everyday Manners, Pride and Prejudice, Growing Up, Northanger Abbey, Learning to Learn, Mansfield Park, Being Good, Persuasion, True Friends, Sense and Sensibility, Falling in Love, and the end of the story. So each chapter is a book. I liked it. I definitely disagreed with him on a few counts, but I did like it. I remember I've only read this once. The other one, however, Among the Janeites, I read a million times, and I love it. No, that is not a bug. I thought it was, and I remembered. It has a huge, it's a bonnet. I forgot what that was. It's a bonnet falling off of her head. Anyway. Sorry, I've got kind of remnants of a cold. I almost always have a perpetual slight congestion during the winter. But this one's more of an overview of the fandom. It dives into fan fiction, it goes into the conventions, the movies, people talking about autism and Pride and Prejudice. It covers everything. It's also got a bit of a memoir element to the author talks about her own personal obsession with Jane Austen and whatnot, but it's much more of an overreaching book, whereas this is a memoir. I just kind of like how these look together. Can you guess which one I preferred? I preferred this one. The reason is because I just liked it better. It didn't have, and most of the time I love personal opinions. I love op-eds. I love when people's own personal opinions leak through. But in this case, I preferred this one where it was more about everyone in the fandom rather than this one. Because he had some opinions which I completely disagreed with. I wouldn't call these spoilers, more just things I noticed. But these do come up later in the book, so if you're really worried about spoilers for a nonfiction memoir, okay then. Alright. I'm one of the few people who read Jane Austen who like Mansfield Park. I like Mansfield Park. I think it's a good book. Now this might be possibly because when I was growing up, much of my reading fare was Louisa May Alcott and Frances Hodgson Burnett, the very old-fashioned, Anna Green Gables, the very old-fashioned books where the girls are, they were trying to make them feisty, but they were still good. That makes any sense? So I'm quite used to the old-fashionedness of books, which is why Mansfield Park doesn't bother me. A lot of people hate that Fanny is very quiet, that she's like almost like a Cinderella, that she does everything that everyone tells her to do, that she's very meek. They hate the premise of the book. Have you ever seen the movie Metropolitan by Whit Stillman, which I think is on Netflix still? I might be wrong about that. But if you've ever seen that, this actually comes up, and he says, well, the main character says, well, the entire premise is wrong. It's about a group of kids, a group of young adults putting on a play. That's not what I feel like it's about. If you ever read the book, you know what I'm talking about. And if you actually want to read the book, spoilers for Mansfield Park, then you probably already know the ending, because it's the Jane Austen book. So basically, they put on this play that would have been quite scandalous for the time. It's about an illegitimate offspring, blah, 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 blah. They put on this play, and Fanny does not like this idea. She knows that they'll get in trouble from the father. She knows that this will be a problem later on. So a lot of people think that she's a bit of a prude, that a lot of people nowadays think she's a bit of a prude, that she's too meek, that she's too good, that she's a bit of a Mary Sue. Now, I don't think this is true. I think that she's just what a good girl would have been like when this book was written. People read this book with a modern day sensibility because Jane Austen is often talked about as a modern author. Mansfield Park is not a modern novel. It is a novel that was written in, I'm not going to check it out, like 1818, something like that. It is not a modern novel by any stretch of the imagination. It was written for that time period's morals. And anyway, I'm kind of blabbering on. Anyway, so in this book, he talks about Mary Crawford, who's kind of like the villainess of the book, of Mansfield Park. And she comes in, and she's like the opposite of Fanny. She's trying to seduce everyone. She's trying to get married. She hates Fanny. She loves Fanny. It's kind of like this really weird relationship. And he's talking about how Jane Austen was trying to trick you, like she did in Pride and Prejudice. If you've read Pride and Prejudice, you know what I'm talking about. With the Darcy thing, how you feel like Darcy's a horrible person, and then you find out he's a good person. This author feels like she's trying to do the same thing with Mary Crawford, that you're supposed to like Mary Crawford. I never got that feeling. I always felt that you were supposed to hate Mary Crawford from the moment she stepped onto the page, because your loyalty was supposed to lie with Fanny. You were supposed to enjoy her company. You were supposed to root for her the whole time. But for some reason, he thinks that you're supposed to like Mary Crawford, and I didn't understand this. And once again, I believe it's because I was raised primarily on very old-fashioned books. And I came into it, Mansfield Park, with the sensibility that I think a lot of girls from time gone by would have come by it. And they would have rooted for the good girl. They would have rooted for the main character. They wouldn't have rooted for the person who's trying to upstart, trying to steal her boyfriend, whatnot. Now this man was trying to say that Jane Austen was trying to teach you something, because you were rooting for Mary Crawford, but then you had to turn around and find out she's a terrible person and support Fanny and know that Fanny's the good one. I can't really remember his argument, but I remember it was something like that. And this didn't make any sense to me, because to me, you like Fanny. You're supposed to stick with her. So that's why I kind of hated this book. And I know it's mostly personal opinion, but to me, he got the original message of the book wrong, which that other people may not feel that way, but to me, as someone who comes from the sensibility of that time period, I feel like I know what the book is supposed to be about, and I don't know. So, I don't remember how many I don't think I've ever actually starred this for Goodreads. I feel like I give it maybe a 3 out of 5, which is what I normally give, what I give most books, because I'm not going to let a personal gripe get in the way. I mean, maybe in a video review, but I'm not going to put it into a star review. So I think I put it like 3 out of 5 stars. However, that just kind of made the book kind of horrible for me. I have read this book 1,000 times though, so I'd say that these books, I definitely prefer this over this, unless you want a guy's personal opinions on the modern day implications of Jane Austen and what you should feel and what he thinks Jane Austen is trying to teach you because of what he thought of the books. Pick this one. If you want an overview of the fandom from romance novels based on to a woman who teaches like self-help classes through Jane Austen and other works of her time period. So that gives you an idea on what to expect from both of these books and whether or not you like them. I'll see you again soon, and keep on reading.